Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my fifth.
If you haven't yet seen the South Park of Donald Trump yesterday, I'll give you a quick overview of it. It's a huge slam on Trump. It is basically an entire video segment, so this 28-minute video, slamming on how the Trump presidency is not what quote-unquote MAGA voted for. MAGA are seen in the video clip saying, hey, you know, I voted to end this woke crap, but now we're going so far in the opposite extreme, just enriching the president and breaking things that, you know, we otherwise liked. And they make references to canceling shows, whether it's the implication of canceling Colbert or canceling or essentially defunding PBS and NPR with government funding, although a lot of people seem to be in support of that. A lot of others are like, no, you know, like let the Corporation for Public Broadcasting continue to broadcast and don't cut media that doesn't always agree with you, Donald Trump, because obviously these institutions lean more to the left side. You find a Donald Trump character that sues everybody who does something Donald Trump doesn't like. So people start revolting in the town of South Park, they get sued. And not only do they have to pay money to Donald Trump, but then they have to share positive Trump propaganda. The, characters in South Park revolt over this idea of, well, who's in the president? Or, who's in the White House? And they then show clips of Trump suing an artist because the artist showed a naked portrait of Donald Trump that wasn't very flattering to Donald Trump because something was very small. Then it shows Trump saying, hey, I'm going to sue you. And he walks back into his bedroom to go to bed with the devil, who's like 10 times the size of Trump. Basically, you've got this idea that the creators of South Park are saying Trump is a little man. He sleeps with the devil, who's way larger than he is. And then the devil's point of view in this is asking Trump to release the Epstein files, which obviously, Trump refuses to say. And the devil implies that he used to be in a relationship with somebody like Donald Trump, suggesting, well, he says that, and it sort of implies that he used to be in a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And he's like, I just wish you would tell me if you were on the list or not, Donnie, is something to this effect. Concerns over separation of church and state, concerns over, is anything illegal anymore, concerns over, what is there that the president can't do? There's no way to basically rein him in. That's essentially what South Park's episode was about. And it was pretty blunt. And what's kind of remarkable about it is the South Park show is, a show that has the same directors of Paramount, CBS, who just struck a deal with Donald Trump for potentially $20 million with maybe another 20 to 40 extra $million to settle claims that Donald Trump has against CBS regarding the potential for deceptive editing of the Kamala Harris interview. But people think there's a lot more going on, that this is not just about getting money from CBS or Paramount, that it's really about getting them to cater the message that, they basically broadcast to be more favorable to Trump, in doing so potentially also canning Colbert, which came just a few days after the settlement. This also comes as the Wall Street Journal yesterday dumps this new exclusive where the Justice Department told Donald Trump in May that his name is amongst many in the Epstein files. Bondi also told the president at the meeting that the Justice Department decided not to release more Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims, which makes sense. That obviously should be censored, right? That should never be shared again. Now, the Justice Department officials reviewed Pam Bondi's truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president of the meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files. Many other high-profile figures were also named. Being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. I like how this is like CYA from the Wall Street Journal. They're kind of like, all right, please don't sue us, bro. They told the president at the meeting that the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past. They also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials didn't plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of Epstein because the material contained, sensitive information. Donald Trump said at the meeting that he would refer to the Justice Department's decision not to release any more files. Mind you, there's, Donald Trump's request to courts to release the Epstein files. Unfortunately, Donald Trump's request to release the Epstein files also came with this, how should I put it, legal argumentation from the Trump administration that basically said the judge has no authority to release these files. So even though we're suing and trying to show that we're getting these files released, we don't think you guys have the legal ability to do so. They write in their complaint, it acknowledges that the Department of Justice recognizes that this court is bound by Pitch, another case, and it raises this argument due to the significance of the matter to preserve it for a potential appeal. In its supplemental briefing, government further recognizes that the 11th court precedents hold no exceptions outside the expressly enumerated abilities, basically, for the court to disclose grand jury material. Finally, the government acknowledges that the court cannot contravene binding case law. Basically, what they're saying is like, hey, we're suing for you to release these files. Just a reminder, we know you legally can't do that, and we're asking you to do it, but we know it would be against the law for you to release the files, so don't release the files, but release the files. And then, sort of, as we predicted, Donald Trump is able to say, yeah, I asked the federal judges to release the files, and they didn't release the files. They also, by the way, in the South Park episode, turned Donald Trump into a Canadian, where, like, his head splits open. After the Canadian Prime Minister says, hey, why are you tariffing us? And Trump basically says, shut up or I'll sue you, or I'll bomb you like I bombed Iraq. And the Canadian PM's like, but don't you mean Iran? And then Trump's like, Iraq, Iran, who cares? Implying that he doesn't even know the difference between Iraq and Iran. It was a pretty scathing South Park episode, frankly. But anyway, the meeting said, really, I thought it was interesting how they basically showcased the pissed off MAGA base with, hey, like, we voted for just, like, somebody to do the right thing, not to deepen the swamp. We voted for drain the swamp and, law and order. But this is what they say in South Park, a lack of compassion in this administration for people, possibly a reference to the ICE raids, and you're just enriching yourself. That was sort of the South Park POV, which, again, like, I'm not trying to spoil it, but people were asking, they're like, hey, I'm not going to watch it. I've only seen clips, so I figure, all right, I'll just give you the TLDR. I realize that's a bit of a spoiler, but not everybody's going to watch it. I do encourage watching it because I do personally think it's very relevant to what's happening today, and it probably actually represents a good portion of Americans who are like, bro, what? So anyway. This meeting set the stage for a high-profile review to come to an end. Bondi said in February that the documents were sitting on her desk. Now obviously the joke is, what desk? There are also now leaked images of the executives at Paramount following the release of this South Park episode, because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, Larry Ellison's trying to strike a deal with the parent company, Paramount, and this doesn't look good. And so people are memeing on the internet that leaked footage of the executives at Paramount have been released after seeing the South Park Epstein Trump episode, and it's right here. So continuing with this Wall Street Journal piece, where did I put it? Anyway, so continuing with the Wall Street Journal piece, we see that Donald Trump is doing everything he can to focus on either Obama or trade or anything but the Epstein files. Administration didn't publicly announce the decision not to release the list, and then eventually said that there is no list. Typically the FBI doesn't disclose. A communication director says it's just another, made up story by the Wall Street Journal. People are running ads apparently, or actually this looks like somebody's projecting a message on the U.S. Chamber of Commerce building saying President Trump release all the Epstein files. You could actually use coupon code release the files if you wanted to join the courses on building your wealth at meetkevin.com, which I feel like is kind of like a historically cool coupon code to use. So if you don't want to use that one, use AI Boom. Anyway, in a statement to the Journal on Friday, Bondi and the Deputy General, Todd Blanche, said there was nothing in the files that warranted further investigation or prosecution, and the president is aware of the findings. At the same time, the Justice Department is supposed to be meeting today, I believe it is, with Maxwell. People think Trump is going to cut a deal with Maxwell, whom he now wishes well, despite being convicted of sex trafficking minors and being sentenced to 20 years in prison. People are now wondering, like, why does he say terrible things about Hillary Clinton, but then says nice things about Maxwell? Anyway, then you have this, so that's possible, by the way, that there's going to be some sort of deal between Maxwell and the Trump administration. Mind you, via legislative sessions, there have been goals to subpoena Maxwell, and that's why a lot of people believe that Trump and the Department of Justice are trying to get ahead of this testimony from Maxwell in Congress by signing some kind of basically silencing deal in exchange for potentially less jail time with the Trump administration. Grand jury testimony makes up only a portion of the more than 300 gigabytes of Epstein-related material. Digital and documentary evidence from the Epstein properties when he was arrested. Grand jury evidence likely not to get released. Oh yeah, Bongino, there's some virality around Bongino and potentially like his podcast viewership going down because of his relation to basically now trying to cover up the files. Here's Asmongold reacting to a clip that's apparently going viral now.
With Donald Trump.
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
This might sound weird, but I'm actually so glad this has happened because I think this will force their hand into releasing the Epstein files. The thing is that Biden had these files for 4 years. I've said this 50 times. I think there's a third party that has the full unredacted list, and the reason why they're not using it on each other is because it would be mutually assured destruction. And if part of
that I think is exactly why Democrats also haven't really released the list, because I agree with that, mutually assured destruction. I do not think this Epstein clip is going to be what it takes to release the Epstein files. Well, I understand his hope. I think he's woefully mistaken on that one. It ain't coming out.
The list gets leaked and it is redacted, then that third party will release the full list and it will damage both of them. Dude, if they don't release them after this and they don't explain this, everybody is going to think Trump was actually on the island with like the underage girls and
people already believe that, Asmonkel. That's already believed. This doesn't change anything. It is an interesting clip. It's worth noting your 14th Amendment is your right to due process. Your 5th Amendment is the right to remain silent, which is usually used in criminal investigations, which obviously he's been charged criminally. That's how he ended up in jail. And then your 6th Amendment also ensures your rights to a fair trial. So it's somewhat interesting to see his response to, have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under 18? I believe the 5th. All right. I mean, that's your legal right to do that.
everything. Guarantee that that's happening. It's a guarantee people are going to feel that way.
Jeffrey Epstein? Yeah, but... Right. Anyway. So this gives you some of the latest on what's going on with the Epstein files.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.